All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going to go way, way back in time to decode one of the very first attempts to map all of humanity, the Table of Nations from the Book of Genesis. And this isn't just some dusty old text. It's an ancient document that has literally shaped how people have seen the world and each other for thousands of years. And that's a really good question to kick things off with, right? I mean, think about it. No satellites, no GPS. How did our ancestors even begin to grasp the sheer scale of the world and figure out where everyone fit in? They didn't have maps like we do, but they did have stories. And one of the most powerful was this attempt to create a family tree for the entire known world. Okay, so here's our plan for today. We'll start by figuring out what this family tree actually is. Then we'll meet its three main branches. After that, we're going to do a little detective work on a mysterious place called Tarshish. We'll also see why this ancient map is, well, kind of blurry. And then finally, we'll uncover its real symbolic meaning. All right, first up, let's get a handle on just how special this text actually is. This isn't just another ancient list of names. It's this incredible vision of the world that was, for its time, totally and completely unique. So, what is it? Well, if you flip open Genesis to chapter 10, you'll find it. The Table of Nations is basically the story of how the world got rebooted after the Great Flood. The core idea is that every single nation and people group known to the ancient Hebrews came from just one family, Noah and his three sons. I mean, that's a pretty bold attempt to organize all of humanity into one big family tree. And here's the kicker. As biblical scholar R.N. Wybray says, there's just nothing else like it from the ancient world. Sure, other cultures had their creation myths, they had their king lists, but nobody else was trying to map out and connect all the peoples of the world in this massive genealogical way. It was one of a kind. Okay, so let's break down the basic structure of this ancient map because it all revolves around three names you've probably heard before: Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. After the flood, Noah's three sons and their families become the ancestors of everyone on Earth. You can almost picture them stepping off the ark, and from them, the whole world splits into these three great family branches. And this created a really clear mental map for the ancient world. You could basically see the world organized by family. Japheth's descendants, they were generally seen as the peoples to the north and west, like the Greeks are on the Mediterranean. Ham's line, that was linked to the south, mostly Africa. We're talking about places we still recognize, like Egypt and Kush. And Shem's descendants, well, they populated the Near East, the heartland of Mesopotamia, and were considered the direct ancestors of the Hebrews themselves. Okay, this is where it gets really fun. When historians and archaeologists try to pin these ancient names to actual real-world places, well, that's when the detective work begins. And we're going to start with one of the biggest puzzles of all, the mystery of Tarshish. So, where on earth was Tarshish? Seriously, people have been arguing about this for centuries. The Bible talks about it as this place of incredible wealth, overflowing with silver. But its location? A total question mark. Was it in Africa, India, Spain? The clues were all over the place. Now, to start solving this, first we have to be clear about what Tarshish wasn't. A lot of people confused it with another famous port, Ophir, but the texts are pretty clear they're two different places. Ophir was all about gold, and you got there by sailing from the Red Sea. Tarshish, on the other hand, was the go-to for silver, and the voyages, like the one the prophet Jonah tried to take, they started in the Mediterranean and headed west. And check this out. We've got this incredible clue, and it's not even from the Bible. It's an inscription from an Assyrian king, Esarhaddon. He's listing the kings who bow down to him, and he lists them in a geographical order, from east to west. He starts with Cyprus, then Yaman, which we know means the Ionians, or the Greeks, and then even further west, he names Tarshish. I mean, that is some seriously powerful evidence pointing straight to the Western Mediterranean. Okay, so if we have bombshell clues like that Assyrian inscription, why is it still so hard to just draw a neat map? Why is everything so blurry? Well, it turns out a lot can get lost over a few thousand years. Yeah, trying to connect these ancient names to modern places is a real minefield. For one, you've got simple mistranslations that can throw everything off. Plus, people don't just stay in one place, right? They're constantly migrating, they're mixing with other groups, and their languages are always evolving. A name that meant one thing in 1000 BCE might mean something totally different just a few hundred years later. And you want a perfect example of a mistranslation messing everything up? Look no further than Tarshish. The original Hebrew text probably described the cargo as metal goods, practical stuff like knives and razors. But somewhere along the line, a later translation changed that to apes and peacocks. That single error sent everyone on a wild goose chase for centuries, thinking Tarshish had to be some exotic tropical paradise like India or deep in Africa. All of this, the blurry lines, the mistranslations, it kind of leads us to this huge aha moment. What if we'd been looking at this all wrong? What if the Table of Nations was never meant to be a literal, geographically precise atlas in the first place? The biggest clue to its real meaning might not be a place on a map, but a number: 70. Because when you actually count up all the descendants listed in the Table of Nations, every single one, from Shem, Ham, and Japheth, you get that exact number. 70 names. Now, in ancient Hebrew thought and throughout the Bible, 70 is not just a random number. It is packed with symbolic meaning. Think about it. There were 70 descendants of Jacob who went to Egypt and became the nation of Israel. There were 70 elders who stood for all of Israel before God at Mount Sinai. The number 70 represents completeness, wholeness. So listing 70 nations, that wasn't a census. It was a powerful theological statement. It was a way of saying that all of humanity and all its amazing diversity is one complete, unified family. So that brings us back to our final question. If the Table of Nations wasn't a literal atlas, what was it? It wasn't a GPS for the ancient world. No. It was a map of relationships. It was a theological vision that, in a world full of warring tribes and clashing empires, made a radical declaration that every single person from every single nation ultimately comes from the same place and belongs to one human family. It was never really about where you were on a map. It was about where you fit in the incredible story of us.